Hello and welcome to our bite-sized training video on how to sell safety signs to your customers. I'm Peter, I work for Spectrum Industrial, a division of Centurion Europe. We are a member of the British Safety Council, part of the British Safety Industry Federation and a registered safety supplier. We're also ISO 14001 and 9001 accredited. Today we're going to give you a little look around our manufacturing site here in Doncaster, and I'm going to explain to you what drives your customers to purchase safety signs, and when you're on those customer sites, what to look for and how to get all the information required for us to assist you in quoting. So the health and safety executives stipulate within their regulations for safety signs and signals that it's up to the employer to ensure that safety signs are provided or are in place and maintained in circumstances where there's a significant risk to health and safety which has not been removed or controlled by other methods. In determining where and when to use safety signs, employers must take into account the results of the risk assessment made under the management of the Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999. Safety signs should be used if they will help to reduce the residual risk. There are four main types of safety sign: prohibition, which are usually red; warning signs, which are normally yellow and black; mandatory signs, which are blue; and emergency escape or first aid, which are green. The Health and Safety Executive stipulates that within the maintenance guidelines, all safety signs should be properly maintained so that they're capable of performing the function for which they are intended. All safety signs should maintain their intrinsic features under power failure, either from emergency lighting or photoluminescent material, unless the hazard is itself eliminated by the power failure. So what you can see now on screen is a guide to how viewing distances will affect the size of sign that's required for your customer. So obviously the further away the sign needs to be viewed from, the larger the sign needs to be. That's a common question is, which size do I need? Well, depending on the sign, that will dictate the size that your customer requires. So now what I'm going to do is just show you a few of the core materials. There's four main materials that we tend to find most commonplace when we are on customer sites. The first material is generally used on internal signage, and that will be self-adhesive vinyl. So it tends to be on lower impact areas, as I say, internal signage, and up to around a 400mm total square area. Anything bigger than that, we would tend to move to a rigid plastic material. So this would be a rigid plastic material. This would tend to be the sort of material that we would recommend for an internal sign that's a little bit larger than 400mm. Potentially something that's in a higher impact area, so it's going to get brushed against. It's not going to get marked or damaged in the same way that a vinyl sign would. The final two materials that we would tend to recommend would be a Foamex material. So again, this is on a larger sign. Again, normally something over an 800mm square would be better on a 3 or a 5mm Foamex. And again, with all of these materials, if you're not sure what material to recommend to your customer, we're here to support, so you can explain to us a little bit more information and we'll recommend materials. The fourth material will be our aluminium composite, or some people know it, dye bond. So aluminium composite is aluminium either side with a resin in the middle, very hard wearing, very strong, used for external road signs. So it'll be signs that are in external areas that are going to be impacted by the weather a lot, so aluminium composite is going to be a lot more durable for that kind of job. So how would this work when you're visiting a customer? Well, we've produced a handy self-audit tool so you can walk the site with your customer, make notes using this document, and then send those on to us, and who will then quote it for you and support you with any additional questions that might not have been covered. So this document covers some of the main things to look for. One of the common things that we'll see, and you'll see up on screen now, is ISO symbols, where these will predate 2012. So certainly best practice for a customer will be to update those signs where they've got the old images to the new images. The other thing then is just common sense. As you're walking through this checklist, it talks you through our car parks, reverse parking policies in place, are disabled bays marked, is there a speed limit on that site, and is that clearly signed? It will walk you through fire assembly points, CCTV signs, fragile roofs, all the common things that you'll find in your customers that they may or may not have, and you can help point out, make a note of, and then we'll quote for you. This is a common example transitioning from a non-risk area into a high-risk area. As you can see, this is the sort of thing that we would recommend as you're going into this area. If there's forklifts operating, if there's mandatory PPE required or authorised personnel only, these are the kind of things that you would note, and then we would help you quote. So as you're going through the self-audit sheet, there are spaces on each section to tick what you need. There's also a section towards the back where you can make a note of the location, the descriptions of the signage, the material and the quantity required. And whether it's a standard or a custom, they're the key things really that you need to know. What size is the sign that you need? And then if you're not sure on the material, we'll support you. If you tell us the location, we'll give you a recommendation. How many is required? Again, particularly on custom signs, this is prevalent because the more you have of any one custom signs, the cheaper the price per unit. Again, if it's a bespoke sign, we want to know what does it need to say. So what are the messages that need to go on there? And again, if there's mandatory and hazardous messages and prohibition messages on there, then we'll put the correct ISO symbols in for you. And then any other supporting information. So if you've got images of a specific sign they want replicating, send us that. So it's as simple as that really. Use your self-audit form. Look for any obvious hazards or gaps within their safety signs using the assessment form. Once you've got recorded all of your customers' requirements, then the next step will be to send an email to customsigns@spectrum-industrial.co.uk, and they'll be able to come back to you with a quote, which is normally within 4 hours. The quotes are valid for 30 days, and once we receive an order, we'll produce proofs for the customer to sign off. We have expert knowledge on site here at Spectrum Industrial, so if you need any further guidance, please just give us a call.